He adjusts the wireless mic and smiles while telling me not to embarrass him tonight. The ballroom hums as doors swing open and closed, the air tasting faintly of carpet cleaner and nerves, and I stand near the stage edge where the lights wash faces flat and honest. He stands closer to the podium, close enough that his sleeve brushes my wrist, close enough to make it look supportive. "Stand here," he says, voice smooth. "Not there." I nod, because nodding is quieter than arguing, because people are already watching, because the first rule of public rooms is that they punish friction. The ops team moves with practiced efficiency. A man in black checks cables. A woman tests the projector, and the wireless mic glows a steady green, as if approving his hand. "Smile," he adds, eyes scanning the rows. "This is my night." I breathe, feel the cool metal of the mic, and keep my posture neutral, the way you do when the room belongs to someone else, and you are a guest in your own body. "You don't need to hover," I say softly. He chuckles, the kind that lands like a lid. "I do," he replies. "It's optics." A coordinator approaches clipboard hugged to her chest. "Sound check in 2, she says. He answers for me. "She's fine." The coordinator looks at me, then away, and I register the exchange as a small theft, one of many that add up to a pattern you don't name until it's undeniable. "Remember," he whispers, leaning in so the cameras won't catch it, "don't embarrass me tonight." The word embarrass is a needle sharp because it implies ownership of the room and my compliance with it. I adjust my stance, the mic warm now, and glance at the stage where the podium waits like a boundary line. "You're late," I say, and it's the wrong thing because it invites correction. "I'm exactly on time," he says. "Check the run of show." He taps the mic, a gentle knock that echoes too loudly. "Testing," he says. "Testing." A tech flinches. "Levels are hot," the tech says. "We'll bring them down." He waves the concern away. "No," he says. "Keep it crisp." The lights brighten, and faces resolve into individuals. I see phones lifted already, a few screens glowing, as if they know something is about to happen. "You look tense," he says, smiling for a passing photographer. "Relax." "I am relaxed," I answer, because the truth would be disruptive. He tilts his head. "Good. Then don't improvise." The coordinator returns with a lanyard. "Badge for stage access," she says, holding it out to him. He takes it, clips it on, and doesn't offer me one. "We don't need another badge," he says, still smiling. "She'll stay close." The coordinator hesitates. Policy says, "Move." He says, tone friendly but final. She moves. The mic hums as if clearing its throat. "Say hello," he murmurs. "No," I say, "not yet." He laughs quietly. "See?" he says to no one. She's nervous. A laugh ripples nearby, then dies when it realizes it doesn't have permission. I step back half a pace, the line of light slicing between us, and he steps with me, mirroring. "We agreed," he says, still smiling. "We agreed you'd keep it short." "We didn't agree," I say. "You decided." His fingers brush the mic, reclaiming it without taking it a territorial gesture. "Read the room," he says. "This isn't about you." A camera shutter clicks. "It's never about me," I reply, and my voice carries more than I intend. He stiffens, then recovers instantly. "You're tired," he says. "Go sit." "I'm not sitting," I say. "Then don't stand here," he says. "You're blocking the sightline." The tech glances up. "She's fine," the tech says. He turns the smile, cooling. "Say it again. Your title is Ops, not mine." The tech swallows. "Yes, sir." The room hears it. The room remembers. We start in 5, the coordinator calls. Doors closing. A ripple of movement, a hush settling. He leans in, breath warm. "Last chance," he says. "Do not embarrass me." I look at the podium. The glass catching light, the audience a blur that sharpens when you let it. "You're squeezing my wrist," I say. He releases it instantly, hands up as if innocent. "Sorry," he says, loud enough to be heard. "Habit." Laughter flickers and goes out. "Mike," he says to the tech, palm open. The tech hands it over. He doesn't speak into it. He holds it like a key. "We'll keep it clean," he says to the room, still not amplified. "No surprises." I feel the line in the air thicken, a clean edge dividing who commands and who complies, and I step forward because retreat would look like agreement. "I'll take that," I say, reaching. He doesn't let go. "After," he says. "After what I ask. After the welcome," he says. "I'll do it." "You're not on the program," I say. He tilts the mic, the green light steady. "I am now," he says. The tech opens his mouth, closes it. "Levels," he asks, to no one. "Up," my husband says. "Read the clause out loud," I say, surprising myself. He blinks. "What clause?" "The one about speakers," I say. He smiles, wider eyes narrowing. "This isn't the time." "It is," I say. The coordinator looks between us, torn. "We have to start," she says. Phones away, someone calls from the back, already recording. He raises the mic an inch, testing his leverage. The lights cut brighter, the mic hums, and his smile hardens as the room leans in. "Ladies and gentlemen." He begins, voice amplified now, and the word gentleman lands like a boundary marker. I step closer to the podium, feel the glass cool beneath my palm, and the audience murmurs at the choreography they don't understand yet. "You're making a mistake," he whispers, not into the mic. "So are you," I whisper back. "Stop," he says, smiling for the cameras. "Now." I straighten, meet his eyes, and refuse to move. The tech shifts. The coordinator wrings her hands, and the green light on the mic stays steady, indifferent to ownership. The mic changes hands as the doors seal, trapping his rule inside a room ready to test it. I'm Emily Carter, 39, a corporate strategy consultant from Boston, Massachusetts. I arrived earlier that evening than anyone expected, because arriving early lets you see who relaxes when they think they're alone, and the ballroom looked different without an audience wider. Almost honest, the clean stage lights slicing the floor into pale lanes that told you where to stand and where not to. The folded guest list sat on a high table near registration, creased neatly down the middle like a secret agreed upon in advance, and I touched it once, then twice, as if confirming it was real. Daniel moved through the space like it belonged to him, greeting staff by first name, adjusting chairs, checking sight lines, his confidence calibrated for witnesses who hadn't arrived yet. "You're early," he said, not looking at me. "So are you," I replied. "I have to be," he said. "This thing runs on precision." "People do," I said. He smiled without turning. "Don't start." The ops manager crossed the floor, clipboard tucked under his arm. "We'll open doors in a bit," he said. "Everything on schedule," Daniel answered before I could. "Yes." The ops manager nodded and moved on, and I felt the familiar erasure, the way answers get intercepted when someone decides your voice is optional. I unfolded the guest list just enough to see the top line, then folded it again, not ready yet to name what bothered me about it. "You're hovering," Daniel said. "I'm observing," I answered. "Same thing he said." "No," I said. "One listens." He laughed softly. "You always do this, turn logistics into philosophy." "You turn people into logistics," I said. A coordinator approached with a lanyard. "Stage badges," she said. Daniel took one and clipped it on. "One is enough," he said. "We'll share space." The coordinator hesitated. Policy bends," Daniel said, still smiling. "It doesn't," I said. The coordinator looked at me, then at him. "I'll check," she said, and walked away quickly. The stage lights brightened as a tech tested angles, and for a moment the light drew a clean line across Daniel's face, half illuminated, half not, as if the room were diagramming him for me. A clean line of light divided faces without explanation. I said nothing, filed the image away. "You're quiet," Daniel said. "I'm learning," I replied. "From what?" "From what you do when you think you're directing," I said. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "We agreed you'd keep it short." "We didn't agree," I said. "You decided." "Same outcome," he said. "Only if I comply," I said. He glanced toward the doors. "This is not the time to test me." "When?" as I asked. "After," he said. "After what?" "After tonight," he said. "There's always an after," I said. "That's the problem." He exhaled through his nose. "You're tired." "I'm clear," I said. The ops manager returned. "We need confirmation on speakers," he said. "The run of show is set," Daniel said. "We'll handle it." The ops manager looked at me. "Anything to add?" "Yes," I said. Daniel cut in. "No." The ops manager nodded uneasy and moved away. "Why do you do that?" I asked. "Do what?" "Answer for me," I said. "Because I know the room," he said. "You know how to control it," I said. Same thing he said again. I picked up the folded guest list and smoothed the crease with my thumb. "Names matter," I said. "They do," he replied. "That's why we keep them organized." "Organized for whom?" I asked. He shrugged. "For success." "Who's ours?" he said. "You keep saying that," I said. "Because it's true," he said. A photographer passed lifting a camera. Daniel's smile snapped on like a switch. "Hold still," he murmured. I held still and wondered how many moments in my life had been paused this way for optics that weren't mine. "You look good," he said. "You always do." "That's not a compliment," I said. "It is if you take it," he replied. "I don't," I said. The coordinator returned breathless. "Badges will be distributed individually," she said, "per policy." Daniel's smile tightened. "Fine," he said. "We'll adjust." He turned to me. "See flexible." "Convenient," I said. He leaned in. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Don't make me smaller than I am," I said. He laughed louder than necessary. "You're dramatic." "You're threatened," I said. His eyes flicked to the guest list in my hand. "Put that down," he said. "Why?" "Because it's not for you," he said. "It's paper," I said. "It's control," he said. "Exactly," I replied. The tech called out, "Lights good. Sound check soon," someone else added. The room began to hum with impending presence, footsteps approaching, voices stacking at the doors. Daniel straightened his jacket. "Remember," he said, soft but firm. "Support me. I support truth," I said. "Tonight is about image," he said. "Tonight is about clarity," I said. He shook his head amused. "You always think you're the exception." "I think I'm prepared," I said. He leaned back, assessing me like a variable he hadn't accounted for. "Just stay close," he said. "I will." I answered, meaning something else entirely. Under the clean lights, the guest list creased deeper as my silence sharpened into intent. The doors opened, people poured in, and the room filled with the sound of expectation, while Daniel moved to the front with practiced ease, and I stayed exactly where the line of light told me to stand. The folded guest list stayed in my hand as the room learned where power expected me to disappear. By the time the doors closed behind the last early arrivals, the back corridors had gone quiet, in that peculiar way venues do when the performance space fills and everything else becomes invisible, and I slipped away with the venue keycard warm in my palm, the plastic edge nicked from years of use. The back office smelled like toner and old coffee. A single fluorescent strip buzzed overhead, cutting the room into hard rectangles that made every movement feel recorded. I knew the risk of being seen. Daniel had staff who mirrored his confidence, but clarity rarely arrives without friction. I slid the card through the reader, heard the soft chirp of access granted, and felt a small illicit relief. "You shouldn't be back here," a voice said behind me. I turned to see a junior coordinator, eyes darting. "Ops sent me," I said, "because sometimes truth needs a uniform." She hesitated, then nodded and backed out, leaving the door ajar. I moved quickly, flipping through printed schedules stacked on a shelf, my fingers steady despite the pulse in my throat. The run-of-show binder listed speakers in tidy blocks, and that was where the first fracture appeared, a schedule page marked with a short code, AG7, tucked behind a divider labeled Contingencies, assigning roles that contradicted what Daniel had announced minutes earlier. My name was present, but displaced, reassigned to a time slot that didn't exist. The cost of seeing it landed immediately. Footsteps approached, voices echoing closer, and I slid the page free, folding it once and tucking it into my jacket. The door swung wider. "What are you doing?" the ops manager asked, clipboard under his arm, brow furrowed. "Verifying," I said, holding his gaze. "Levels," he asked. "Logistics," I replied. He glanced at the binder, then at the hallway. "This isn't the place. It's the only place," I said. He shifted, conflicted, then nodded once. "Make it quick." I replaced the binder exactly as I found it, the fluorescent light slicing my hands into bright and shadowed halves as if to underline the choice I'd made. A clean line of light divided faces without explanation. I slipped the keycard back into my pocket and moved toward the door, heart steadying as I returned to noise. In the corridor, Daniel intercepted me, smile fixed. "There you are," he said. "Where'd you go?" "To the restroom," I said. "You missed sound," he said. "I heard it," I replied. He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Don't wander," he said. "It looks unprofessional." "So does improvising authority," I said. His eyes flicked to my jacket. "What's that paper?" I said. "Put it down," he said. "Why?" "Because it's not yours," he said. "Neither is my silence," I said. A tech passed between us. 2 minutes, he called. Daniel straightened, performing calm. "Smile," he murmured. I did, because the room was watching again, because consequences follow visible defiance. The schedule page pressed against my ribs like a promise and a threat, and as the audience noise swelled, I understood the shape of the trap he'd set and the outline of the one forming in response. The misfiled schedule cut cleanly through his certainty, turning precision into a tell. He reached for my elbow, steering me toward the stage. I led him, counting steps, feeling the plastic edge of the keycard bite lightly into my palm, as if reminding me where access really lived. The back office page stayed folded against my heart, as the corridor funneled us toward a public lie. The ballroom is full now, a living grid of faces and phones under the bright wash of overhead lights, and the projector remote rests heavy in my palm as if it knows it can change the temperature of a room with a single click. The stage smells faintly of warm plastic and perfume. Applause rises and falls as Daniel steps forward, badge catching the light posture, confident voice already pitched for command. "Welcome," he says, amplified and easy. "We'll begin shortly." I stand just off to the side, visible but unintroduced, exactly where people put what they plan to manage later. "Stay there," he murmurs without turning. "You're blocking the sight line," I reply quietly. He smiles wider for the audience. "We'll adjust," he says, a promise that sounds like a threat. A coordinator. Ava, her name stitched on her tag, takes a seat in the front row, B12 printed small and neat on the chair, her phone already angled upward. "Run of show," she whispers to the ops manager beside her. "Set," he answers, eyes flicking to Daniel. The hum of anticipation tightens. Lights up a tech calls. The white clarity sharpens faces, erasing corners where doubt likes to hide. Daniel gestures with the mic. "First, a brief housekeeping note," he says. "We'll keep remarks concise." He glances at me, a warning wrapped in courtesy. I lift the remote slightly, not enough to alarm, just enough to be seen. "Not now," he whispers. "Read the clause out loud," I whisper back. He laughs into the mic. "We'll hear from our sponsor partners," he says, skipping ahead. A murmur ripples. Ava shifts in her seat. "That's not the order," she says, too loud to be private. A few heads turn. Daniel's smile tightens. "It is tonight," he says smoothly. Ava hesitates, then raises her phone. "My notes say otherwise," she says. "Seat B12. Someone whispers behind her, the number traveling like a receipt. Phones lift higher. "Let's stay on script," Daniel says, voice still warm. "We are," Ava replies, tapping her screen. "You moved it." The ops manager leans toward Daniel. "We can pause," he murmurs. Daniel shakes his head. "No," he says. "Proceed." He looks at me. "This is what I meant," he whispers. "Don't." I step forward half a pace, the remote cool against my fingers. "You said concise." I say, my voice unamplified but carried by the room's attention. He turns, eyes flashing. "This isn't your segment," he says into the mic. "Not yet," I reply. Ava stands, phone held steady. For the record, she says, the speaker order changed without notice. Laughter breaks out, then dies as people realize it isn't a joke. The ops manager clears his throat. "We can verify," he says. Daniel waves him off. "No need," he says. "We're live." "So are we?" Ava says, angling her camera. The projector flickers as a tech brushes the cable. "Hold." Someone calls. Daniel steps closer to me, lowering his voice. "You're embarrassing me," he says, the word sharp now. You're documenting yourself, I reply. Keep smiling. Your email header is on the screen, Ava says suddenly, and the room inhales. The projector steadies, showing a brief overlay of an inbox subject line before cutting out again. A mistake, accidental or not, but enough. Phones surge. Daniel stiffens, then recovers. Technical glitch, he says. We'll continue. The ops manager steps forward. We should pause, he says. We have a discrepancy. Daniel's jaw tightens. Sit down, he says too loud. The room hears it. Silence spreads, then a low buzz of interest. I raise the remote, not clicking, just holding the possibility. We can clarify, I say. Now. He leans in, breath hot. After he says, no, I say. Ava's camera remains steady, B12 visible at the bottom of the frame. Say it again. Your title is Ops, not mine. Daniel snaps at the manager. The manager straightens. This is public, he says. We need to be accurate. The audience shifts attention, locking. The white lights make everything sharp, unforgiving. A witness stands, a seat number circulates, and the room feels the click before the switch. Daniel lifts the mic. We'll take questions later, he says, trying to move past it. I don't move. You can't, I say. Watch me, he says, smiling thinly. The ops manager looks at me, then at the remote. Ava nods once, a small, brave motion. The room waits. Phones raised, breath held, as the stage becomes a ledger and everyone starts counting. The remote stays unclicked as the audience learns control can stall under bright light. After the applause stutters into an uneasy murmur and the ops team ushers us off stage with practiced smiles, the back hallway feels narrower, the air heavier, and the clipboard with the incident log rests against my forearm like a ledger demanding entries. Daniel walks ahead of me, shoulders squared, performing calm for anyone who might still be watching, while I trail just enough to read the room he's trying to outrun. You didn't have to do that, he says without turning. I did, I reply. You made it public, he says. You brought cameras, I say. He stops abruptly, forcing me to stop too. This is not how we handle disagreements, he says. You handle them by erasing me, I say. He scoffs. You're emotional. You're procedural, I say. Same thing he says reflexively. The ops manager clears his throat nearby. We should document, he says, tapping the clipboard. Daniel waves him off. Later, he says. No, I say, reaching for the log. Now. The ops manager hesitates, then hands it over. The pages are smudged with pencil marks and coffee rings, a history of small corrections that never make it to the stage. I flip to the back where an internal email is clipped, the header masked to 82, printed and dated only by relative timestamps. A quiet paper trail that doesn't shout unless you know how to listen. What's that? Daniel asks. Your plan? I say. He leans in, eyes scanning, then laughs. That's nothing, he says. Drafts, I reply. Drafts don't instruct people to sideline speakers. I say, reading a line aloud, my voice steady. The ops manager shifts his weight. That email came from venue admin, he says. It instructed a change. Daniel's smile thins. And it contradicts what you said on stage, the ops manager replies. We adjust, Daniel says. We adapt. You conceal, I say. He turns to me, anger flashing. You're making this worse. You already did, I say. A security guard passes earpiece, catching the light. Daniel lowers his voice. You think this makes you look strong, he asks. It makes me accurate, I say. He laughs sharp. Accuracy without authority is noise. Authority without accuracy is fraud, I say. The word lands and the hallway seems to hold it. The ops manager exhales. We need guidance, he says. Legal, I say. Daniel's eyes snap to mine. Don't, he says. I will, I reply. He steps closer. You're overreacting. You're underestimating, I say. The clipboard trembles slightly in my hand, not from fear, but from the shift in weight, the moment when logic breaks and something else takes over. Put that down, Daniel says, pointing to the email. No, I say. It belongs in the record. He smiles again, the public one gone, replaced by something colder. You always want the last word, he says. I want the right one, I reply. The ops manager nods almost imperceptibly. "I'll notify legal," he says. Daniel snaps his fingers. "Don't move," he says. "Read the clause out loud," I say. He stares at me. "This isn't a courtroom." "Then stop lying like it's private," I say. A door opens nearby, laughter spilling from a green room, a reminder that the show continues, whether truth is ready or not. I tuck the email back into the log, feeling the paper's thin resistance, the way it bends, but doesn't tear. The printed header with its masked digits fractures his story, turning intention into instruction. Daniel exhales slowly. "You think you've won something," he says. "I think I've started something." I reply. He shakes his head. "This ends tonight." "No," I say. "This clarifies tonight." The security guard pauses, listening. The ops manager steps away, phone already in hand. Daniel watches him go, then looks back at me with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "You'll regret this," he says. I close the clipboard, the sound crisp in the hallway, and meet his gaze. The incident log shuts as his certainty cracks, and the corridor remembers who changed it. The prep room is smaller than it should be for the importance it pretends to hold, walls scuffed by years of urgency, and the sealed legal envelope sits centered on the table like an accusation waiting for breath while the audio recorder blinks a patient red. I close the door behind us, not locking it, just narrowing the world, and Daniel's reflection hovers briefly in the glass as if unsure which side it belongs on. "You're enjoying this," he says, arms crossed. "I'm documenting," I reply. Same thing he says. The recorder hums softly, indifferent, and I set it down between us. "Say it again," I say. "Say what?" "That you moved me because it was cleaner," I say. He laughs short. "I didn't move you," he says. "You adjusted," I say. "For optics," he says. "Because you freeze rooms. Because you threaten rooms," I say. He scoffs. "You're recording me." "You're always recording yourself," I reply. The ops manager knocks once and steps in, careful. "Legal's on standby," he says. "They need confirmation." Daniel's jaw tightens. "This is unnecessary," he says. "Then it will end quickly," I say. The clean stage light leaks in from the hallway, cutting across the table, slicing the envelope into bright and shadowed halves, and the same division sharpens in Daniel's face as he chooses words. The same light sharpens as proof tightens. "You can't spring this on me," he says. "You sprang it on me," I reply. "You humiliated me," he says. "You announced control," I say. He looks at the recorder. "Turn that off," he says. "No," I say. "Read the clause out loud," I add, pushing the envelope a fraction closer. He doesn't open it. "You're out of line," he says. "You crossed it," I say. The recorder catches the slight pause before his next sentence, the way his breath recalibrates. "I did what sponsors expect," he says. "They expect results. They expect honesty," I say. "They expect winners," he snaps. "At any cost," I ask. "Within reason," he says. "Whose?" I ask. He looks away. The ops manager shifts. "I need something concrete," he says. "We have audio," I say. Daniel laughs again, brittle. "Of what?" "Of you," I say. "Admitting you changed the order without notice," I add. He waves a hand. "That's nothing," he says. "It's context," I say. "Context isn't proof," he says. "It's motive," I say. The recorder's red light blinks steady, counting his words without judgment. "You're twisting this," he says. "You're narrating it," I reply. He steps closer. "You don't have authority," he says. "I have accuracy," I say. The light shifts as someone passes the door, brightening the cut line across the table, and the envelope's seal gleams. "Open it," he says suddenly. "You first," I say. He doesn't. "Fine," he says. "I moved you because you complicate things." The sentence lands cleanly captured. The ops manager inhales. "That's enough," he says quietly. Daniel freezes, then recovers. "You're overreacting," he says. "We have what we need," the ops manager replies. Daniel turns on me, eyes cold. "You planned this," he says. "I prepared," I say. "You set a trap," he says. "You walked into it," I say. The recorder clicks softly as it marks the moment, and I slide the sealed envelope toward the ops manager. "This goes to legal," I say. He nods. Daniel's smile returns thinner than before. You think a recording beats influence, he says. It beats silence, I say. The hallway noise swells a reminder. The public room still waits, and the light holds its line as if refusing to blur. The recorder captures his choice as the bright divide turns confession into leverage. Daniel steps back, recalculating. This isn't over, he says. It's on record, I reply. The ops manager pockets the envelope careful. The door opens, spilling light and voices back into the room, and the recorder's red eye keeps watching as we rejoin the flow. The sealed envelope leaves the table, and the line of light refuses to let him cross back. The hallway outside the prep room hums with a different pitch now, lower and tighter, as if the building itself has shifted into monitoring mode, and the audio recorder feels heavier in my hand, even after it's off its presence, lingering like a witness that refuses to forget. A security guard steps closer, the blue tag on his uniform catching the light, and he checks his phone before glancing at Daniel. "We need a moment," he says, polite but firm. Daniel smiles, the practiced one. "Of course," he says. "We're wrapping up. We're escalating," I say, and the word lands cleanly between us. The guard nods once and gestures toward the entrance, where a log clipboard rests on a narrow table, pages already marked with quick, economical handwriting. "Badge color," he asks Daniel. "Blue," Daniel says automatically. The guard glances down. "Your badge is blue," he says, tapping the page. "Mine is cleared." "Don't pretend." The sentence is soft, almost apologetic, but it cuts. Daniel stiffens. "This is unnecessary," he says. "It's procedure," the guard replies. I watch Daniel's eyes flick to the doors, calculating sightlines, witnesses, exit paths. The ops manager hovers nearby, phone pressed to his ear. "Legal is ready," he murmurs to me. "They're waiting for confirmation." "They'll have it," I say. Daniel steps closer to me, lowering his voice. "You're turning this into a spectacle," he says. "You made it one," I reply. A coordinator passes, eyes wide, whispering to another staffer. "The rumor has legs now." The security guard flips the log to a marked entry blue, stamped in the margin time noted in relative shorthand. "You signed earlier than this," he says to Daniel. "The camera contradicts you." Daniel laughs, sharp. "Which camera?" "Entrance," the guard says. "Lobby." Daniel's smile falters for half a beat, then returns. "Then check it," he says. "We will," the guard replies. The audio recorder comes back out, not turned on, just visible, and Daniel's gaze fixes on it. "You think that toy scares me?" he asks. "It clarifies you," I say. He scoffs. "You don't have proof." "We have process," I say. The ops manager nods. "And witnesses," he adds, glancing toward the open doors where a few guests linger, phones half raised, pretending not to listen. Daniel exhales slowly. "This is harassment," he says. "This is documentation," the guard replies. Different departments use different words. Daniel turns to me. "You wanted authority," he says. "Enjoy it." "I wanted accuracy," I say. Authority followed. He steps back, reassessing, then gestures toward the ballroom. "We're due back," he says. "Not yet," the guard says, holding up a hand. "We're holding the doorway." The chain on the door latch rattles softly, as it set a small sound with outsized meaning. The room beyond grows louder, a swell of anticipation and confusion. The ops manager finishes his call. "They're on standby," he says. 10 minutes. Daniel's jaw tightens. "You're counting on timing," he says to me. "You always do," I reply, "because control hates clocks." He laughs without humor. "You think this ends well? It ends clearly," I say. The guard flips the log closed. "We'll proceed when ready," he says. Daniel looks from the guard to the ops manager to me, measuring each like variables that have stopped behaving. The blue badge on his chest gleams under the light, suddenly less impressive than it was an hour ago. A blue badge meets a locked doorway as authority pauses to read its own handwriting. He straightens his jacket, performing composure. "I'll be right here," he says. "So will the record," I reply. The guard steps aside just enough to let staff pass, not him, and the corridor fills with the quiet electricity of a decision waiting to be enforced. The door latch settles, and his influence learns what a boundary sounds like. The lobby cameras don't care about intention, only angles, and the time-stamped CCTV still waits on the ops desk like a held breath while the security earpiece crackles with clipped updates that never quite become sentences. I stand just inside the threshold, where carpet gives way to tile, watching Daniel pace a tight loop he thinks looks calm, his hands folding and unfolding as if rehearsing a different ending. "We're not doing this," he says, voice low. "We are," I reply. "You're dragging me through process," he says. "You dragged me through optics," I say. The ops manager gestures to the monitor. "We pulled the still," he says, "from lobby cam L2. Daniel scoffs. "Pull whatever you want," he says. "It won't change the night." The image loads slowly, pixel by pixel. The security earpiece whispering counts, doors, guests, staff, until the frame sharpens. Daniel at the entrance earlier than he claimed, leaning toward the desk, pointing at a list, his badge catching the light as he signs the log. The guard tilts the screen toward him. "That seat number isn't yours," the guard says, tapping a corner where the desk placard peeks in. Daniel's smile flickers. "You're misreading it," he says. "The timestamp disagrees," the ops manager replies. "And the angle," the guard adds. Daniel steps closer, squinting. "That could be anyone," he says. "It's you," I say. "Your jacket. Your watch." He looks at me, then eyes sharp. "You staged this," he says. "You performed it," I reply. The earpiece crackles again. "Phone's up," someone murmurs from the ballroom side. They're restless. The pressure shifts no longer contained to hallways. "We need to decide," the ops manager says. "Now." Daniel laughs, a brittle sound. "Decide what?" "Whether we proceed honestly," I say. "Or publicly," the guard says. Daniel's jaw tightens. "You think a still frame beats my word?" he asks. "It beats your denial," I say. He points at the screen. "That list could be anything," he says. "Guest list," the ops manager says. "Table C3, he adds, recognizing the formatting. Daniel looks away. The earpiece murmurs again, louder. 2 minutes, a voice says. They're chanting. Daniel straightens. "We go back," he says. "You'll sit," he says to me, "and I'll finish." "No," I say. "We end this cleanly." "You don't get to decide," he snaps. "Watch me," I say. The guard lifts a hand. "We're holding," he says. "Authorities on standby," the ops manager adds, meeting Daniel's gaze. "After public proof." Daniel exhales, calculating. "You want a show," he says. "I want accuracy," I reply. The still remains on screen, unblinking, its quiet insistence louder than any accusation. "You're cornering me," he says. "You cornered yourself," I say. The earpiece crackles one last time. "Stage ready." The ops manager reaches for the projector feed, then stops, looking to me. I nod once. The frozen lobby frame locks his story in place as the countdown tightens around it. Daniel looks from the screen to the doorway, then back to me, the loop in his pacing breaking as he realizes the room he feared is about to hear him without filters. The CCTV still stays lit as the corridor learns which truths survive bright halls. The corridor empties with an unnatural politeness. People pretending errands while the security earpiece murmurs status updates that sound like weather reports. Doors steady, cameras live, audience restless, and the security earpiece presses cool against my ear, as if reminding me that the next move must be deliberate. Daniel stands by the wall jacket buttoned posture, reset his eyes tracking every exit, as though influence might still leak through one of them. "You've made your point," he says, voice low. "Now let it go." "I've documented it," I reply. "That's different." The ops manager gestures toward a narrow table where papers are spread in careful order, and the folded guest list rests on top, its crease now a fault line. "We need alignment," he says. "Before we go back," Daniel nods. "Exactly," he says. "We align." "With reality," I add. He smiles thinly. "With optics." The ops manager lifts the guest list, smoothing it once, twice. "Table C3, he says, scanning. "Sponsor seating," Daniel's eyes flicker. "And in your name appears twice," the ops manager says. "Once as liaison, once as speaker proxy." Daniel scoffs. "That's administrative," he says. That's control, I say. The security guard steps closer, hand resting near the door latch. We're minutes out, he says. Phones are up. Daniel exhales. This is harassment, he repeats like a shield. This is consistency, the ops manager replies. Your badge is blue, the guard says quietly. Mine is cleared. Don't pretend. Daniel snaps his gaze to the guard. You don't get to talk to me like that, he says. I do when I'm on the log, the guard replies. The guest list crackles softly as it's folded again. Read the clause out loud, I say, not raising my voice. Daniel laughs. You're obsessed, he says. With accuracy, I reply. With humiliating me, he counters. With stopping you, I say. The ops manager looks between us. We have to choose, he says. Either we proceed without clarification, or we clarify publicly. Daniel straightens. We proceed, he says. No, the guard says. We don't. Daniel steps forward. Move, he says. The guard doesn't. The earpiece crackles. 30 seconds. The pressure compresses. You're cornered, Daniel says to me. You should stand down. I'm standing still, I say. You're the one running. He shakes his head. You think this paper beats me? It beats your version, I say. He reaches for the guest list. The ops manager pulls it back. No, he says. It stays. Daniel's jaw tightens. You're siding with her, he says. I'm siding with the record, the ops manager replies. The corridor lights brighten as someone opens a service door, and the crease on the guest list deepens the names suddenly heavier with consequence. Last chance, Daniel says, voice cold. Sit quietly, and this ends. Stand accurately, and it ends, I reply. The guard sets his stance. We're going back, he says. But not like this. Daniel laughs once sharp and brittle. You'll regret it, he says. I'll remember it, I say. The ops manager folds the guest list with care and hands it to the guard. Carry this, he says. We'll need it. The earpiece crackles again. Stage clear. Daniel looks at the doors, then at me, then at the folded paper leaving his reach. The duplicated name on the guest list tightens the noose as exits close in sequence. He exhales slowly, recalibrating for the room he's about to face. The folded list leaves his hand, and the corridor commits to a public answer. The stage lights are unforgiving now, a bright white clarity that flattens excuses and sharpens edges, and the spotlight hums softly as it warms aimed squarely at the glass podium where truth finally prefers to stand. The room has gone quiet in the way crowds do when they sense a turn they didn't rehearse, phones lifted, elbows tucked, faces tilted forward to catch whatever falls next. Daniel steps up first. Wireless mic firm in his grip posture, restored for performance. Thank you for your patience, he says. Voice smooth, the old authority attempting a reset. We're making a minor adjustment. A ripple of unease passes through the front rows. I take one step closer to the podium, feeling the cool glass under my fingertips, and the spotlight tightens, isolating us both in the same frame. Before you continue, I say unamplified but carried by the room's attention, we need accuracy. Daniel smiles without warmth. This is not appropriate, he says into the mic. It's necessary, I reply. The ops manager stands to the side, hands clasped, eyes steady, while the security guard positions himself near the aisle, visible but unobtrusive, a boundary with a pulse. We're live, Daniel says, nodding toward the phones. Good, I say. Then let's be precise. I lift the sealed legal envelope, LC9, printed small in the corner, the paper thick enough to feel final. A murmur rises. What is that? Someone whispers. Daniel's eyes flick to the envelope, then back to the crowd. A misunderstanding, he says quickly. Open it, I say. Not now, he replies. Read the clause out loud, I say. He laughs lightly. You're disrupting the program. You altered it, I say. The ops manager steps forward half a pace. We verified the document, he says, voice carrying. It's the signed speaker contract. The word signed lands differently, heavier, and the room leans in. Daniel's jaw tightens. That's confidential, he says. It's binding. The ops manager replies. I slide the envelope onto the podium and break the seal, the sound crisp in the microphone's sensitive range. papers slide free, the signature unmistakable even from a distance, and I turn the page so the audience can see the header, the formatting, the authority of ink. Phones surge upward. "You can't do this," Daniel says, voice finally losing its polish. "I already did," I reply. "You said I wasn't on the program," I add. "You said it was your night." A laugh ripples, then stalls. The contract lists the keynote. The ops manager says, pointing, "Emily Carter." The spotlight seems to brighten the glass podium, reflecting the name back into the room. Daniel steps closer, lowering his voice. "Stop," he says. "You're done." "No," I say. "I'm beginning." The security guard lifts a hand, subtle but clear, and two uniformed officials appear at the side entrance badges, catching the light as they pause, waiting for the cue they're required to have. The room notices. "Authority is present," the ops manager says evenly. "After public proof." I hold the contract higher, letting cameras find it. "This was signed weeks ago," I say. "You knew." Daniel looks out at the audience, recalibrating, then back at me. "You plan to humiliate me," he says. "You plan to silence me," I reply. "This is the record." The officials step forward, now measured professional. "Sir, one says to Daniel, 'We need a word.'" The mic squeals briefly as Daniel lowers it too fast, the sound sharp enough to make the front row flinch. "This is outrageous," he says. "This is documented," the official replies. The crowd exhales as one, a collective release of tension, as process takes the place of power. The spotlight holds steady, refusing to dim. The signed contract rises under white light as authority enters only after the room sees it. Daniel backs away from the podium, smile gone, hands empty. I step fully into the light, the glass cool and solid beneath my palms, and look out at a room that finally understands why silence was never an option. The spotlight locks in as the podium accepts truth and the night chooses a witness. The room exhales into a different register once the officials take position, not loud, not relieved, but orderly, the way a space sounds when it accepts that procedure has arrived and spectacle is over. The USB drive in the clear evidence bag rests on the edge of the podium, labeled neatly. Its weight more symbolic than physical, and I notice how Daniel avoids looking at it, eyes tracking the exits he no longer controls. "We'll step aside," one official says, voice, even guiding him toward the aisle. "This won't take long." Daniel opens his mouth, closes it, recalibrates. "There's been a misunderstanding," he says to the crowd, aiming for charm. "We'll resolve it privately." A murmur moves through the seats, skepticism made audible. The ops manager steps forward. "We're continuing as scheduled," he says, with the keynote. The word lands like a gavel. Phones lift again. Not hungry now, just attentive. I take a breath, feel the podium steady beneath my palms, and look at the front row where Ava sits upright, hands still, camera lowered at last. Before we proceed, the official says we need confirmation. The ops manager nods and gestures to the evidence bag. "The materials are complete," he says. "Audio log, CCTV, and the contract. We'll take custody," the official replies. The USB bag slides from the podium to his hand, the exchange quiet and final. Daniel turns toward me, voice dropping. "You didn't have to do this," he says. "You could have waited." "Waiting was the plan you chose," I reply. "I chose accuracy." He scoffs. "You'll regret burning bridges." "I stopped crossing them alone," I say. The official clears his throat. "Sir," he says to Daniel, "we need you to come with us." Daniel straightens his jacket. The old reflex then stills. After the talk, he says. Now the official replies. The guard opens a path, bodies shifting aside with an instinctive respect for boundaries that have been named. Daniel steps back, then forward, the decision made for him. "This is a mistake," he says to the room, searching for allies. None answer. The ops manager leans toward the mic. "Thank you for your patience," he says. "We'll proceed." Applause begins uncertainly, then steadies, not celebratory, just acknowledging the reset. I adjust the mic height, a small human task that steadies my hands. "Good evening," I say, and the words land without resistance. As I speak, I see Daniel pause at the aisle, glance back once, then follow the officials out, his influence shrinking to the size of a memory. The guard closes the side door softly, the latch clicking into place. "Time," the ops manager whispers. I nod and continue choosing clarity over flourish, letting the room feel how structure can be kind. The evidence bag leaves the podium as process replaces performance, and the room chooses order. I finish the opening of my remarks, not triumphant, not wounded, just present. And the applause that follows is measured, earned. The USB disappears down the aisle as authority exits with what finally mattered. I am back at the glass podium now. Present tense, wrapping the room the way it did at the beginning. Only the air has changed. It's steadier, less hungry, as if the night has learned it doesn't need drama to breathe. The spotlight still hums, but it no longer pins me. It illuminates a difference that matters when you're done negotiating for space. The audience settles into the kind of quiet that listens instead of waits, and I rest my palms on the cool edge of the podium, grounding myself in something transparent and solid. Somewhere beyond the ballroom doors, close softly, the final administrative sounds of an ending, completing themselves without ceremony. I see the ops manager near the aisle, posture relaxed for the first time all evening, and Ava in the front row shoulders, dropped eyes attentive rather than alert. Before we close, I say, and the mic carries my voice evenly without the tremor that used to come when I measured myself against someone else's comfort. I don't mention Daniel. I don't need to. The room already understands the shape of what happened. It felt it rearrange itself. "Thank you for your patience," I add, and it's not a courtesy. It's an acknowledgement of shared attention of witnesses who stayed. As I speak, the stage light holds steady, no longer slicing faces into halves, no longer drawing boundaries that need permission. Light holds steady, control no longer negotiates. The sentence forms in my mind without urgency, a resolution rather than a revelation. I talk about systems and incentives, about how small adjustments compound into culture, and I watch heads nod, not because they're being managed, but because they recognize themselves. The glass podium reflects the room back at me, rows of people who came for a program and stayed for accuracy, and I feel the odd calm that arrives when you stop bracing. At the edge of the stage, the security guard confers quietly with an official, then steps aside his work. Complete boundaries enforced without spectacle. Phones lower, pens come out. The night moves forward. I finish my final point and let the silence do its work, trusting it now. Applause rises, not sharp, not urgent, but sustained a sound that says the room is finished, being told what matters. I nod once, step back from the podium, and the light remains unchanged, as if it understands its job is done. The glass podium releases my hands as the room keeps the clarity we built together.